I'm an amateur astronomer. Very amateur. Don't get me wrong, I love stargazing, but I'm also your average millennial, deep in student debt, renting in a high cost of living area and working a dead-end, soul-crushing job. So I don't really have the time or the savings to sink into this hobby. Near Thanksgiving last year, my gran got me the best telescope she could afford for my birthday. The fact that she'd invest in a hobby of mine like that means so much to me, and I've been taking it out to stargaze as much as I can ever since. For the most part, it's been fun and exhilarating, and I've been learning a lot about the universe and our place in it. It's just so cool to drive out to the middle of nowhere and look up. Well, I guess I should say it was. Something happened in January that's making me question reality, that I just can't stop thinking about. In short, I saw something strange, something I can't explain. I'll get to that. First, for context, one of the things I really wanted to observe this year was the first full moon. It sounded like the title of a poorly translated anime. Super Blood Wolf Moon. It's pretty rare, so I wanted to do it justice by getting far from the glow of Denver and its several suburbs. I drove east, away from the Rockies, then south towards desert and desolation. Somewhere between Raton and Taos, I pulled over. It was nearing night by this point. The sun was just this slim, rust-red glow on the horizon that bled up to these vaporwave pinks and outrun purples. And it was quiet. So quiet. No buzz of city sounds, no planes droning above, in a holding pattern above DIA. Only the constant ebb and flow of a slight breeze and the chirp of a few steadfast crickets. In the distance, a pack of coyotes yipped and yelled. I kept my ears on them, trying to determine how far they were from me. I wasn't scared. Not really. Sure, I was alert and aware of my surroundings, but I wasn't scared. Ever since getting that telescope, I'd driven out to deserted and semi-deserted places alone plenty of times, and had come to recognize true danger from the false kind I invented in my head. It basically boiled down to trusting my gut. If my gut said go, I went. If it said get over it, I got over it. That night, my gut was saying all good. So, for hours, I watched the stars pop out against the dark sky, watched as they slid across it until they hit the light of the moon and disappeared, watching as the eclipse began. And for hours, nothing happened. At least, nothing scary or strange or supernatural. Just me looking up, watching the shadow of the earth sweep over the moon. Around 10 p.m, there was the whoop whoop from the road and Pepsi-coloured lights swirl around me. The cops. Great. I'd dealt with the cops before while stargazing. Most of the time they were reasonable and let me off with a warning. Sometimes though, there'd be an asshole whose night was made by ruining mine. I stepped away from my telescope and walked back towards the road, hands clear by my side. 2 cops, a brawny man and a woman with charcoal colour hair, both in plain clothes and their badges and guns clear in sight, stepped out of an unmarked black SUV. They eyed me, obviously wary, so I waved, making sure both my hands were visible, silently cursing my luck and the way their lights ruined my night vision. "Car troubles?" the woman asked, shining her light in my face, then behind me towards the field. I'd attached reflectors along the length of my telescope and knew she could see them winking in the beam of the flashlight. "No, ma'am, just observing the full moon," I pointed up. She lowered a light and smiled. A good sign. "Oh yeah, it's that one. What's it called? Super Blood Wolf Moon out tonight, right?" "That's right," I said, nodding. "Want to take a look?" Her partner made a small noise, and the woman looked over at him, then up at the moon. "Oh, what the hell," she said, and stepped off the road towards my telescope, stooping slightly to gaze through it. "Whoa," she said. "It's kinda creepy. Hey, wanna look?" She glanced at her partner. "Come on, it's cool." Her partner looked up at the sky like he was considering it, then said, "Sure." He stepped over and gazed through the telescope for longer than the woman had, but he seemed far less impressed when he pulled away. "Spooky," he said. The woman shot him a strange look before turning back to me. "Shouldn't stay out here too late," she said. I nodded. "I won't, just waiting till totality hits. I'll head out after that." "When is that?" she asked. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and glanced at it. No service, but the clock still worked. "About 20 minutes from now." "All right," she said. "Well, be careful. Coyotes and such, you know." I nodded again. "I know." The woman sighed and said, "All right." She turned towards her partner and added, "Come on, big guy, let's go." She walked back towards the SUV and stood, waiting by the driver's side door for him. The man hesitated, looking between me and his partner, like he wanted to say something. A few seconds later, he said, "Have a nice night." And they walked away too. I waved as the cops slid inside their SUV and waited for them to leave. They whooped their sirens again, flashed their lights, and pulled off, heading north. I watched them drive away for a few minutes before walking back towards my telescope. The light from the moon was slowly disappearing now, and the landscape around me was dark. I wasn't able to see much with my night vision ruined. On a whim, I decided to walk farther into the field and stare at the sky without any instruments. About 40 or 50 feet from my telescope and the road, it happened. I tripped and fell hard into the dirt. After a second of moaning in pain, I stood up and looked around, trying to figure out what I tripped over. I couldn't see in that darkness, so I pulled out a flashlight from my pocket and flicked it on. Almost immediately, I saw it. Despite the thick brush covering the field, it was hard to miss. A metal hatch. It was weird. I was out in the middle of nowhere and there were no structures, at least ones that I could see, anywhere around. The hatch was square with a tiny domed window near one side. It looked like it had come off the side of a submarine or something, and it looked old, like it had been out in that field for years. The metal was rusting, dull in the dim moonlight. I backed away, sweeping my light around the field, trying to see if there were any indications that somebody might be living nearby, like trash or footprints. But there was nothing. I was on edge now and decided it was time to leave. I turned back towards the road, towards my car and safety, but didn't get very far. I heard something I can only describe as tapping. It sounded strange, like when you hit one of those huge metal water tanks with a rock or your knuckles. The way the sound ricochets around it, all distorted and waterlogged. That's what this tapping sounded like. There were 3 quick taps, then a pause, then 3 more taps, but slower, longer. Another pause, 3 more taps, quick again. They were all insistent, all loud, all coming from the hatch. I stared down as I wondered if my fall had upset something inside. Maybe an animal had gotten trapped, or it was some sort of alarm system. I was scared now, sure, but I was also curious. Curiosity won. I flicked my flashlight back onto the hatch. The tapping sound stopped. "Hello? Is someone up there?" A voice. A damn voice. Something moved in the glass dome of the hatch, and I realized it was an eye. Bloodshot, and big, and blue. I think I screamed. I know I ran. Behind me, the voice called out again. It sounded odd, elongated and echoey, like whoever it was standing inside a water tank, or maybe a bunker. "Wait, wait," the voice pleaded. It sounded desperate. I stopped, half-turned, tried to hear over the sound of my own panicked breathing. "Please don't go, please." I took a step back towards it. "What the hell is going on? Who are you? What is this? Please, you have to let me out. Let me out, please. She'll be back soon." The eye was still watching me. It blinked. "Please," the voice said again. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, if they were young or old. That's how distorted their voice was. I only knew that it sounded human. "Open the hatch." I don't know. How do I was stuttering, scared, unable to think. I took a few steps towards the hatch and knelt next to it. "The lock," the voice said. "What?" The voice sounded panicked, shaky. There's a metal lock on the side of the hatch." I walked around the perimeter of the hatch slowly, shining my light down at it. The eye squinted slightly in the light. Sure enough, there was a padlock on one side of it. It looked brand new. I bent down and jiggled it around a little bit, not really expecting it to budge. There was nothing else I could do, not without help or the right tools. I pulled my phone out of my pocket just to check. Still no service. I swallowed. "I'm sorry," I said. "I can't open it. I need to go get help or something. I'll be back, I promise." I stood up to leave. "No!" the voice screamed, mad with panic. "No, no, no! Don't leave me! Don't leave me!" "I'm sorry," I repeated. "I have to go. I have to go get help. I'll be back. I swear. I swear." "No, no, no! Please, please!" Whoever was down there started pounding at the hatch. Pounding and pounding. It was so loud. I stood up and backed away, trying not to hyperventilate. "I'll be back. I promise. I promise." There was a whoop whoop from behind me, and I looked towards the road. The cops. I half ran, half stumbled towards them. It was the same cops as before. They were already out of their SUV and walking towards me. Both of them had flashlights this time, but they pointed them towards the ground, away from my face. "Hey," the woman said. "Thought we'd come up and watch the totality with you. Hope that's..." "What's wrong? What happened?" There's a person," I said breathlessly. "There's a person underground, in a hatch. They're trapped." The cops glanced at each other, then back at me. "What do you mean?" the woman asked. I caught my breath, then said, "There's a weird metal hatch thing over there. I tripped over it, and there's someone inside. They're trapped." A metal hatch? It was the male cop. He shined his light over towards the field. "Yeah, you know, like something that'll be on a ship, with one of those glass dome window things." The man raised an eyebrow and said, "A porthole?" A slight smile flashed onto his face, like he was amused. "Yeah, Yes, whatever. I don't care what it's called. There's someone out there, in a damn bunker or something. What the hell are you guys doing still standing here? I gestured at the field. My telescope was still there, about 10 feet from the road. The two cops looked at the field, then at each other, then back at me. The woman spoke this time. Have you had any illegal substances tonight? What? No. There's someone out there, in the damn field. What are you waiting for? Come on, I'll show you. Sir, the woman said. Sir, stop, okay? We're going to need you to calm down. Take some breaths, deep breaths. Good. Now, slower this time. Repeat what you said. You saw something strange in the field? I nodded. Yes. This metal... I struggled to find the right words and flailed my arms around, desperately trying to describe it. A hatch thing. Like a door to a bunker or a submarine or something. And there's someone inside it. A person. They were asking me to help them. They need help. I paused, took a deep breath. And there was a padlock on one side of it. It looked new. The cops glanced at each other again. They looked totally unfazed. You want to check it out? The man said to the woman. I got the last one. The woman scowled at him and then sighed. Yeah, sure. You'll be here? This time he did smile. He nodded and said, Always. The woman shook her head and rolled her eyes towards the sky before turning back to me. I looked between them, unable to figure out what the hell was going on. Why were they acting so nonchalant? What did the man mean by this one? Had this happened before? Or was he just referring to them checking out weird stuff in general? I didn't know then. I still don't know now. Go on, the woman said, snapping me out of my thoughts. My partner will wait here with you, okay? I'll go check it out. Can you point in the general direction of what you saw? Yes, I can. I turned and pointed towards my telescope. It was like 40, 50 feet north of my telescope, in the brush. It's sticking out a few inches from the ground. It's hard to miss. The woman shined a light in that direction and said, All right. Then, without another word, she started walking towards the way I pointed, sweeping her light in smooth, consistent arcs across the ground. When she got about 50 feet from my telescope, she stopped and knelt down. Did you find it? I yelled out to her. No, there's nothing out here, she called back. In the dim moonlight, I could see her stand up and kick the ground with a boot. What? I looked at the man who looked back at me. He was leaning against the SUV with his arms crossed. His face was completely impassive. She said, There's nothing out there, he said. What do you mean there's nothing out there? I think I was yelling, but I'm not sure. I don't really remember. Without stopping to think, I said, I'll show you, and took off towards the direction of the woman. In retrospect, I realized how stupid this was. Both cops were armed, and I was acting erratic, irrational. The man immediately took off after me, and I could hear him crashing through the brush as I ran over to where the hatch was, repeatedly saying, Stop, stop, trying to get me to stop or slow down. I did neither. The woman's left hand hovered over a pistol as I approached. Stop, she said. I ignored her and kept going. Stupid, I know, but I couldn't believe that there was nothing there. I wanted to show her she was wrong, that the person in the hatch, whoever they were, needed our help. It didn't occur to me to question why that person wasn't making any noise now or calling out for help. The woman sighed and shined a flashlight back at the ground, helping me look. But the hatch, it wasn't there. It was like some badly written urban legend. The vanishing hatch and the mysterious voice. I could clearly see the imprint of my ass in the dirt, proof I'd tripped over something. But the hatch was gone, vanished. It was impossible. It was right there. I knelt down and brushed at the dirt with my hands. "Look," I said, pointing at the spot where I fell. "You can see that I fell, right there, tripped over the hatch and fell. Where the hell is it? It has to be here." "Sir," the woman said again, but this time she sounded mad. "I don't know what you're trying to pull here, but you got about 3 seconds to explain yourself." I looked up at her. I was still kneeling in the dirt. "You don't believe me?" "Believe what?" she asked, stretching her arms out wide. "That there's someone locked away out here, underground, in the middle of nowhere?" She shook her head. "You probably just fell asleep, had a bad dream. That, or you lied to us." I stood up and said, "Lied?" "Yeah," she said, "about the illegal substances." I looked at her, then at her partner. He was standing next to me, hands in his pockets, looking up at the sky, like he really didn't want to be there. Like he didn't give a damn. "Seriously?" I asked. The woman nodded. No, I don't do drugs. I don't even drink, for goodness sake." She raised an eyebrow, and I took a deep breath. "Look, I know what I heard. I know what I saw. There was someone out here. A metal hatch with a lock on the side of it. It has to be around here somewhere. We should keep looking." "Hey," the woman said, "I'm not going to tell you again." Her partner looked down from the stars and cleared his throat loudly, cutting her off. "I think," he said, "that we should all just calm down, okay? Look, I'm sure you, think you saw something. Whether you fell asleep or were doing something you, shouldn't be doing. Something happened." I opened my mouth to protest, but he held up his hand and continued. "Here's the thing. I'm not really in the mood for this tonight, so we're gonna let you off this time, okay? Let's just pretend this never happened. Go home, get some rest. Clearly you need it." Without looking at her, he asked his partner, "That okay with you?" She shot him a look I can only describe as pure hatred, then turned and said to me, "You got lucky this time. If this behemoth wasn't here with me, well, who knows. All right, come on, let's get out of here." "But," I began. The man cut me off. "Stop," he said. "We have things to do, places to be, people to book. Either you take my offer and leave, or my partner here will deal with you. You wouldn't mind taking the time to do that, would you?" he asked his partner. The woman smirked. "Not one bit." "So," the man said, turning back to me, "what's it gonna be?" I hesitated, then said, "I'll go." "Great," the man said. Then he looked up and added, "Sorry you had to miss your totality." I glanced at him, confused. It was just an odd thing to say. The woman rolled her eyes at him and said, "We going now or what?" The man helped me pack up my telescope and load it into my truck. He apologized again, then told me to get home safe. Both cops stood outside their SUV, watching as I drove away. Look, I know it's been a long, long while since this happened, but I can't stop thinking about it. I have so many questions. I know what I saw, and I know I'm not crazy. There has to be some sort of explanation. So, I've decided. I'm going to drive out there in maybe a few weeks to check it out again. Not the best idea, but I just can't help myself. I just want to know. I need to know.